Welcome to the Marketing for Startups podcast by Ugly Ventures. I'm your host, Victoria Hajar, and the co-founder at Ugly Ventures, a place where entrepreneurs like you can find the tools and capital to grow your business. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Marketing for Startups podcast by Ugly Ventures. I'm your host, Victoria Hajar. I'm so excited that you're here. We're talking today about how to create your 2021 marketing budget. Yes, the budget. So if you want to grow your business, you have two options. You can either invest your time or your money. And as founders of startups, we typically burn ourselves out selling and marketing our products and services ourselves. Usually we have a small team just hands on deck doing their best to push. But when it comes time to scale the efforts and you really want to grow, it's time to look at creating a budget. So even the smallest budget can go a long way as long as you are intentional about how you're spending the money, the strategies that you put together, how you're tracking and improving. So let's go through some important points. So first I want to do a little bit of benchmarking. So how much should a startup be investing in marketing as it is? So the Small Business Administration reports that small businesses typically are spending between 7 to 12% of their revenue on marketing efforts and marketing activity. But with that, startups, if you're just starting out, should expect to allocate a little bit more. So reports show that startups are spending about 20% of their revenue on marketing activities. So let's think about, setting up and improving your website, SEO strategy, advertising. All of these things are investments that you create at the beginning of your business. And then once things are, performing well and your systems are in place, that's kind of when you can dial back a little bit on that budget. But I think when you're starting, of course, allocating a little bit more is important to get yourself on the right path and started properly. So once you determine what percentage of your overall revenue you want to invest in the marketing, the next question is, how are you going to maximize that budget, right? For all of us with small budgets and we're bootstrapping, all of that good stuff. What are the sort of things that we can do to ensure that that budget's going to take us far? And unequivocally, the first piece of advice is have a plan. Make sure that you have a solid marketing strategy that you have planned out thoughtfully. And the way that you can get started on that, if you're looking on where to start, is to plan your client value journey. So I have lots of resources to the client value journey. It's something that I talk about and advocate for a lot. You can find that in the show notes for this episode, uglyventures.com/marketing budget. That's ugly with an I, UGLI ventures.com/marketing budget. And you can have the links to the client value journey training that I do. There's a lot of free resources there. But you want to take a look at your client value journey, which is an 8-step process. And you want to make sure that along that roadmap that you've created, which is your marketing strategy, that there's no leaks in that journey. So you want to make sure that you have proper marketing activity set up, your system set up at each stage of the marketing journey. And I want you to make sure that that is all tied together before you spend one dime on advertising. Because advertising alone is not going to bring revenue into your business. You need to have a proper roadmap set up. So when that web traffic does get to your website, right, that you are converting that traffic right into buyers and getting them along those journey. And if they're not buying right away, that we have their email so that we can continue to sell to them. So it's a closed system that you want to make sure there's no leaks in before you start spending your money on advertising or anything like that. So I definitely would say, number one, invest your money in completing that client value journey. So any improvements to a website that you need, if you need to create pop-ups or you need to invest in an email marketing system, your CRM, if you need to invest in design or upgrading your visuals for your brand, that is definitely the number one thing you should place where you should start. But if you're ready to grow, right? So now, all your baseline stuff is covered, all the bases are covered. We want to put our money first into growth activity. So there are 3 ways that you can grow your audience in digital marketing. And the first one is through SEO. So that is through engaging in a professional to create an SEO strategy where you're continuously engaging in your off-page SEO strategy. So SEO has 2 components. There's the on-page SEO, which is when you're setting up your website and you want to make sure that you have maximized all of your native on-page SEO components, which are simple things like making sure that you have alternative text behind your images, making sure that you have the proper tags, the proper your URLs are set up properly, your meta tags are squared away. So these are things typically you can do hand in hand with whomever is developing your website, or you can have a professional pretty easily look over, making sure that all of the basic SEO is set up properly. Any professional website developer will cover those basics. But the off-page SEO is a whole other universe. This is about backlinks and also, your blogging strategy. So focusing on your SEO and putting some investment behind that is a way to definitely grow your business. This will increase your organic traffic. And again, organic traffic is different from advertising traffic. And advertising is the second way that you can grow your business and the second place that you would want to start putting your marketing budget towards is traditional or digital advertising. And of course, I would suggest digital advertising because it's much easier to track your ROI with all of the good, juicy metrics you can get behind doing a digital advertising. But it depends on what makes the most sense for your business. So advertising, either through social media or through Google is a great way to get more eyeballs on your business, increase your brand awareness, increase website traffic, hopefully get more email addresses with the conversion strategy that you have in place for capturing those email addresses. So you can pour money behind that. And the third way that you can grow your business, and the first place that I would suggest putting your money in, would be to expanding partnerships and leveraging other audiences. So this money could be allocated to, doing campaigns with influencers. And, a lot of times in this world, in the past, influencers used to do a lot for barter. So you could give your product or, a hotel night. If you're a hotel or e-commerce brand, you can give product for influencer activity. But nowadays, influencers that are any influencer of value that takes their business seriously would be charging for this service. So it's just another form of advertising. So doing partnerships with influencers is a good way to spend your budget, but could also be a little more cost effective than traditional advertising. You could also use this strategy of leveraging other people's audiences to participate in trade shows. That would be a marketing cost. To participate in events, things like that. So this would definitely be the place to start with your marketing budget. Typically, if you're bootstrapper, 1 and 2, being very creative with partnerships and doing SEO, you could do pretty much by yourself with a very low cost. But advertising, of course, you can't get around. It's sort of the money that you put in is what the results that you get. But with all 3 of those points, I suggest allocating a small budget to all of them. If you want to sort of put your blood, sweat, and tears into building partnerships in SEO, that's great. That's time. I would start with pouring a little money into advertising if the client value journey is tied together. I would start small with a very small advertising budget to start testing, doing some tests on, advertising design and copy and messaging before you kind of go all in on spending your budget kind of in one blow. But the ideal situation is to be evenly spreading your budget across these 3 growth activities that I mentioned. Now, the second part of the marketing budget is really tracking your results. So in the last episode, that would be episode 22, I explained to you how to set up regular data reviews, and doing that consistent practice in your business is an absolute game changer and very, very important for increasing just your revenue and the performance, the ROI of all of your marketing activity. So if you're interested in digging deeper into that, go check out episode 22. But just as a general overview, the most important way to ensure the success of your marketing and that you're achieving maximum ROI is by monitoring the results of every action, every little thing that you pour money into, keeping a very close eye on the performance of those activities. So even if you plan on hiring an SEO expert, for example, it's your responsibility to get yourself educated on, the basic performance metrics of the SEO and have an entry-level understanding of, what that expert's doing, the results that can be expected from the engagement, and set up some KPIs for that partner that you hire. And if you're doing other, your advertising, for example, let's set up some key metrics to be tracking the performance of that, like client acquisition cost, right? How much money are you spending on the advertising, and how much actual sales can you track that are actually completed as a direct result of that advertisement? Those conversions can be easily set up in your Google AdWords accounts. We have that opportunity in the social media on Facebook or Instagram advertising as well. So we want to always be tracking the performance of these efforts to make sure that any dime we spend in our business is giving us back revenue tenfold, hopefully, or more. So if you're having some trouble determining what the budget should be or feel a little uncomfortable get it started, you can always send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'm Victoria Hajar. That's Hajjar. Always happy to hear from you and to understand what some of your roadblocks are to creating a profitable marketing strategy for your business. So I hope this was helpful to you. I'm excited to hear from you, and I'm even more excited to see you back here next week. Have a great week, a lovely weekend, and I will see you then. That's it for this week. Thank you for listening to the Marketing for Startups podcast and for sticking around till the end. It would mean so much to me if you could like and subscribe to this podcast. It's a great way of telling the world that this podcast has content worth listening to. And remember, you could always reach me at LinkedIn at Victoria Hajar or at uglyventures.com. Thanks for listening. Until next week.